is such a beautiful nation, no doubt. So there were a few journalists around, and they were interviewing Srila Prabhupada, and they asked him how did he like Australia. And Prabhupada's reply was, for him, it's all the same. He said he doesn't find anywhere specially very special, because Prabhupada's vision was absolutely different than a mundane person's vision. Like we go to certain places and we are very attracted by the surrounding, right? Like in New Zealand, Queenstown is supposed to be on the top 6 most attractive places on the planet, right? Fiji's Coral Coast is one of the top 10. So sometimes certain places are very attractive, they're very scenic, very beautiful. But when Prabhupada went, just like here it is mentioned, that if it was Los Angeles, it was Hawaii, India, Africa, anywhere, for him every place was the same. Everything belongs to Krishna, and wherever there is Krishna's devotees, that place becomes Vrindavan. So he had an equal vision to everything. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmani Gaini Hastini Sunni Pakecha Pandita Samadarshana. He sees everything with an equal vision. So I'll just mark this. So we'll go to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam Puran, Canto 4, Chapter 6. Today is text number 4. Chapter entitled, Chapter 4, the creation of the fourth order. So you can repeat after me. Tad akaranya Vibhu Praha Tejiyashi Kritagashi Shemaya Tatra Sa Bhuyan Na Prayena Bubhushatam Tad Akaranya Vibhu Praha Tad Akaranya Vibhu Praha Tejiyashi Kritagashi Tejiyashi Kritagashi Shemaya Tatra Sa Bhuyan Shemaya Tatra Sa Bhuyan Na Prayena Bubhushatam Na Prayena Bubhushatam Tad Akaranya Vibhu Praha Tejiyashi Kritagashi Shemaya Tatra Sa Bhuyan Na Prayena Bubhushatam. Please try. na akaranya vibhu praha teji yashi kritagashi shemaya tatra sabhuyan na prayena bhubhushatam tad akaranya vibhu praha teji yashi kritagashi shemaya tatra sabhuyan na prayena bhubhushatam tat akaranya vibhu praha teji yashi kritagashi shemaya tatra sabhuyan na prayena bhubhushatam. Word to word, tat, the events related by the demigods and the others. Akaranya, after hearing, Vibhu, Lord Brahma, Praha, replied, Teji Yashi, a great personality, Krita Agashi, has been offended. Shemaya, for your happiness, Tatra, in that way, Sa, that, Bhuyatna, is not conducive. Prayena, generally, Bhubhushatam, desire to exist. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. When Lord Brahma heard everything from the demigods and the members who had attended the sacrifice, he replied, You cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and therefore offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way. Purport. Lord Brahma explained to the demigods that although Daksha wanted to enjoy the results of fruitive sacrificial activities, it is not possible to enjoy when one offends a great personality like Lord Shiva. It was good for Daksha who have died. It would have been good for Daksha to have died in the fight, because if he lived, he would have committed such offense at the lotus feet of great personalities again and again. According to Manu's law, when a person commits murder, punishment is beneficial for him, because if he is not killed, he might commit more and more murders, therefore be entangled in his future lives for having killed so many persons. Therefore, the king's punishment of a murderer is appropriate. If those who are extremely offensive are killed by the grace of the Lord, that is good for them. In other words, Lord Brahma explained to the demigods that it was good for Daksha to have been killed. So, translation once again. When Lord Brahma heard everything from the demigods and the members who had attended the sacrifice, he replied, You cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and thereby offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way. So, it has come to this point here when Lord Brahma is conversing with the demigods, and he's trying to explain that how you cannot achieve any kind of happiness if you criticize or blaspheme devotees, especially herein it is the great personality Lord Shiva, who they have offended in a big way. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that how it would have been much better if Daksha was killed, whatever fight that had ensued, if he is left to live, he would again and again criticize and blaspheme other great personalities, and his future would be even worse for what it is now. And Prabhupada explains how the kings used to give capital punishment or death punishment. Even today, many countries like America, most of the Middle Eastern countries still have capital punishment where someone is hanged, or there are other methods of taking one's life. So it is said that the capital punishment in a way is a very good thing. Prabhupada explains why giving death sentence to someone is good, is because if the person is left alone in society without punishing him for such offenses like murders, it is mentioned here in this purport. If a murderer is left alone in society, he may kill again and again, right? And by killing him, you are in a way helping him, because if you leave him alone, he'll commit more murders, and then his future is even worse. He will have to suffer the consequences of his karma more and more. By cutting it there and then, by killing him, actually you are helping him for not committing further sinful activities. So we can see there were great personalities like Maharaj Yudhishthira. We remember that he cried so many times. He did not have any heart in engaging into battle with the Kauravas, because he did not want to kill anyone. He doesn't want bloodshed in any way. But when he was the king of this planet, reinstated as the king of Hastinapur by Lord Krishna himself, he used to give capital punishment to many of his citizens without any hesitation. In this situation of fighting on the battlefield, he was crying, trying not to fight, not to kill anyone. But here, as the king of the world, he very happily gives punishment of the death penalty. Why? Because he knows that this is good for the person, right? He saw there was no good in the battle. There was no good in the battle because many millions of people were killed innocently. We should remember there were so many innocent people killed in the Mahabharata. And one of the most important that strikes me was the Narayani Sena of Lord Krishna. Right? Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas, of course, we all know about that. But his whole army was given to Duryodhana. But the whole Narayani Sena vanished. The Krishna's personal, army was all killed because they were fighting on the other side. How innocent was the Narayani Sena? So we can see that Yudhishthira Maharaj had no feelings to have this fratricidal war, but here when he became the king of Hastinapur, it is said in his time, he gave a death sentence to many people, and it was without any hesitation. So we can see the difference. At one side he was crying not to kill anyone, but here he is sentencing people to death, and he is not hesitant at all, because here this death sentence where someone is being hanged to death for as punishment to their crime is a good thing, because you are protecting him for further criminal activities. So sometimes capital punishment, Prabhupada explains here, is a very good thing on the part of the king, because he is saving him for further karmic reactions. So similarly, it is mentioned here, Daksha's offense was so grave that even if he was killed for these offenses, it was good in him. It was good for him. But now he is left alone, not killed. He may commit more offense to great personalities because he is very proud. So the main reason for one committing offense to others, because he himself is very proud. A proud person commits offense, right? Because he feels he's too good, he's better than the others. So that gives him the impetus to offend others. So there is many reasons, but here in the concept of why Daksha offended is because he is very proud. He is being favored in different ways. He is very effulgent, he is powerful, he is a progenitor, his position is great. So when you are powerful, you have a position, you have wealth, you have fame, you have strength. So all this becomes reason for someone becoming very proud, and a proud person does offend. So we can see here in the translation it is said that you cannot be happy in any way. Brahma is explaining to the demigods that you cannot be happy if you blaspheme or criticize great personalities or devotees. So we know this is the greatest offense. The first offense in chanting the holy names of the Lord is to offense the devotees who are trying to propagate the holy names of the Lord. So Prabhupada explains very nicely in our movement, thousands of classes devotees give on this same subject, that if you want to ruin your devotional life, you try to criticize devotees, right? It is called the Hati Mata Aparad, right? There's so many types of offenses you can do while executing spiritual life. There is offense to the holy name, there is offense to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is so many other kinds of offenses, but above all, the most gravest of all offense, the most dangerous offense that a devotee can commit is to offend other devotees, especially greater devotees. Like here, in the case of Daksha, it is Lord Shiva. In our case, if we try to offend senior Vaishnavas, gurus, acharyas, our spiritual life is doomed. There is no doubt. Krishna takes away the Krishna consciousness we have. Krishna consciousness is a gift given to us by Krishna. We feel blissful, we feel happy, we feel encouraged in Krishna consciousness, encouraged to chant properly, serve properly. We are happy, we are blissful, very much because Krishna is providing this happiness. The taste for chanting is provided by Krishna, because Krishna consciousness, bhakti, is solely depends on Krishna, who he wants to give, because it is his personal asset. whatever is very close to Krishna's heart, it's difficult for him to part away. So he is very choosy who he gives devotional service, right? Pure devotional service. The pure taste of Krishna consciousness. It's not an easy thing to achieve. If Krishna is happy with you, he bestows upon you that supreme bliss which one gets from executing Krishna consciousness. So if you offend devotees, that bliss, that consciousness is taken away by Krishna himself, because he cannot tolerate such offenses. I always recite my favorite example in the books of the Acharyas. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained a very nice incident that happened during Krishna Leela. The story goes, I'll just shorten it up. I have spoken about this before. How the greatest demigod, Brahma, offended Krishna while he was on this planet. Right? Brahma offended Krishna very much. He hurt him by taking away all his cowhead boyfriends and their calves and hid them in a cave for a short time. Right? On the other hand, Indra, also a great demigod, offended Krishna by pouring torrential rain on Vrindavan, and his idea was to kill the Vrajavasis. And we know how Krishna eventually lifted up the Govardhan hill and protected all the Vrajavasis. So when these two personalities finally realize that they have offended at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, initially they had no idea, seeing Krishna as a child, ordinary child playing in Vrindavan, not knowing his supreme position. I don't know how these demigods sometimes get illusioned themselves, because every demigod can be put under illusion, because only illusion cannot touch Krishna and his very pure devotees. Demigods can be illusion. So in a way, delusion by the position of Krishna, they offended him. And then we know how in the Bhagavatam it is mentioned that both these personalities came one by one to beg forgiveness from Krishna. So Brahma came back begging forgiveness from Krishna. He brought the Surabhi cow, did Abhishek and all that. And when Brahma was finished with his begging of forgiveness and doing all the rituals, trying to please Krishna, Brahma could see that Krishna was very grave. He was not happy, pacified with Brahma's, asking for forgiveness. As he was leaving to his own planet, he could see that Krishna was not happy. He had a hard face. But where Lord Indra came and begged forgiveness, offered beautiful prayers, performed parikrama, worshipped his lotus feet, performed abhishek from the milk of the Surabhi cow, Krishna was extremely pleased. So, if you see the gravity of the two demigods' offenses, the offense of Indra was very, very grave. His attempt was to kill the Vrajavasis. Whereas Brahma's offense was very light. He just tried to hide his friends for a while. So if a demigod's offense was very light, why was Krishna not happy? He was very, very unhappy with Brahma. But whereas Indra's offense was very, very grave, very, very hard, he tried to kill, but even then Krishna was very happy, smiling and pleased. So the Acharya Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that even though Indra's offense was very, very grave, very, very heavy, Krishna was still pleased with his prayers and begging for forgiveness, because whatever he did eventually united Krishna's devotees with him. right? So when he poured torrential rain, Krishna lifted Govardhan. All the Vrajvasis were together with Krishna for 7 days and 7 nights, and Krishna enjoyed that so much that he was so pleased with Indra. No matter externally his actions were very, very bad, but the consequences of his actions were very, very nice, because his devotees came together with him. Whereas Brahma, although his offense was very grave of trying to kill the Vrajvasis, but you see, trying to hide, got confused. Whereas Brahma's offense was very light, just trying to hide. Krishna was not happy with him. So what he did, as you know, being unsatisfied, Lord Brahma came back and pleased Krishna as Haridas Thakur. So the point that Krishna and the Acharya is trying to make from this Leela is that when you try to offend a devotee, he is taken aback. Right? Any devotee, if you try to offend a devotee in any way, with your mind, with your words, or with your action, offense to any devotee can be made in 3 forms. You can offend a devotee just in your mind. How can you offend a devotee like from your mind? By not greeting him well, right? When you meet a devotee, you greet him well, you offer your obeisances, right? You smile, you pleasingly and smilingly you look at him, right? So in your mind, you should be pleased, always pleased to see a devotee wherever you see him. So if you don't, look at a devotee pleasingly, smilingly, greet him properly, you can very subtly, offend a devotee with your mind. And of course, offending with your words. This is a offense that's generally predominant, within devotees. That you say things to a devotee, sometimes maybe innocently you can actually hurt a devotee. So your words, you have to be very careful. You have to choose your words very carefully when you speak to a devotee. And the highest type of offense that you can make towards a devotee is through action. Like sometimes we hear that devotees fight. Sometimes it becomes physical. So this is just unheard of. You just can't survive if you physically handle a devotee. It's just not on. Right? So you can offend devotees in many ways, but it is said that Lord Brahma came back again to pacify Krishna and please him by becoming Haridas Thakur and being born in a very low class Mohammedan family, taking a humble, low position in Chaitanya Leela. He was able to completely satisfy Lord Krishna this time for his offenses in Dwapar Yuga, for hiding his cowhead friends about which Krishna was not at all happy. So my point is that when you offend a devotee in any way, he is taken aback, right? When a devotee, tries to lose a little bit of his Krishna consciousness or tries to, withdraw back from Krishna consciousness, any offense will hit a devotee. If you try to offend a devotee, he's hit, by that offense. He's affected. And sometimes, if he is not a very advanced devotee, he's, taken aback a little bit by that offense. And Krishna doesn't like it. Because you are taking him away from Krishna's family. Right? He's come into Krishna's family. He's trying to become a devotee, or he is a devotee within the devotional family. And if you try to offend such devotees who may be new, you may be senior, so if he's taken aback and if he loses his Krishna consciousness, Krishna can never forgive you, because you're trying to push him away from Krishna. So the actual devotee mood should be to bring everyone closer to Krishna. That is required, and not, push devotees away from Krishna. An offense can seriously do that. Any kind of offense onto a devotee can seriously push a devotee away from Krishna, and that's unforgivable by Krishna. That's why it is called Hatimat Aparadh. That's why Krishna takes that gift of spiritual taste, that the taste for Krishna consciousness is taken away by Krishna. And we can see many such offending devotees then start loitering around the streets. They get attracted to material life. You lose attraction for spiritual life, and you get attracted to material life. One final thing, do you know how many disciples did Prabhupada make while on this planet, initiated? About 10,000 disciples he initiated while living on this planet in his 10 years. You know, when he left his body after 5 years, how many disciples were active? Any idea? 1,000. 90% of Prabhupada's initiated disciples fell down. And many senior devotees will explain, because they became very offensive to each other. So of the 1,000 devotees who were disciples who were active, many have left this world, and I don't know about 500 of such Prabhupada disciples would be left on the planet. 500 or a little bit more. But 90%, you see great Swamis. I have heard from Devamrita Maharaj, some great Acharya like, sannyasis, they still could be found on the streets of Newark selling incense and still trying to criticize devotees and ISKCON. They have fallen from the sannyasi status. They are very much attracted to material life, and they are trying to still offend devotees of ISKCON. Certain offensive mentality is still there, even today in 2021. So this offense, takes you from your position all the way up there, to down there. So if you want your spiritual life to be doomed, you offend devotees. If you want, so on the contrary, there is offense which takes spiritual, taste away. On the other hand, if you want Krishna's blessings more and more, if you want your taste in Krishna consciousness to enhance, you try to glorify the devotees. Right? In your mind, in your action, with your words, try to always glorify devotees, even the smallest of devotees. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once said that who is a devotee? Who is a devotee? Who should we glorify? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once explained that one who chants Hare Krishna Maha Mantra even once, the devotee who has entered the temple for the first time, he is a devotee. Once, I was telling the other day, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, his second question to Prabhupada on a warning work was, Prabhupada, how many devotees are there on this planet like yourself, pure devotees? So, Tamal Krishna Maharaj's first question was to Srila Prabhupada ever was, what happens to a devotee who does not finish his spiritual life perfectly within this lifetime. So some or other we slip away from spiritual life, or we did not perfectly complete our spiritual life. So Prabhupada explained how whatever you have done can be carried in the next life. So whatever devotional service you have done is never lost. So Tamal Krishna was very happy, said because he had been going to other spiritual gatherings, and he said, even because I'm here, with Srila Prabhupada, and this form of spiritual life, looks perfect. If I am not even able to complete this, I have, some place to start in my next life. So he was very happy with Prabhupada's reply. The second question he asked was, how many pure devotees are there on this planet at the moment like yourself? So Prabhupada replied, he looked at Garag Muni, this is in Los Angeles, and he asked Garag Muni, how many devotees in our movement? So at that time, 1968, there was only 75 initiated devotees in the movement. So Garag Muni replied, in ISKCON, we have 75 devotees. So Prabhupada said, so Tamal Krishna, there are that many pure devotees on this planet. So all these were new devotees, some were 3-month-old, 6-month-old, 1-year-old, 2-year-old devotees, but Prabhupada considered them as pure devotees. So new devotee, young devotee, neophyte devotee, senior devotee, one tries not to offend any devotee. Okay, so wonderful verse. I'll just read again and finish. When Lord Brahma heard everything from the demigods and the members who had attended the sacrifice, he replied, you cannot be happy in executing a sacrifice if you blaspheme a great personality and therefore offend his lotus feet. You cannot have happiness in that way. So you cannot ever be happy in any way if you try to offend any devotee. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone has any questions? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam Puran ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.